go through the top 10 highest paid running backs in football, and they've all missed significant time or haven't lived up to the billing.
Running backs don't matter, right?
Running backs in the NFL don't really matter.
Never invest resources in your running back.
And these guys are irrefutably very, very good at playing running back, but they get hurt.
Run scheme, box count, and down and distance affects how a running play happens so much more than how good the running back is.
Because there's been no running back that I can even think of that can carry a team to the playoffs, never mind through the playoffs, at the position the way the game is being played.
Individual running backs are extremely replaceable and should not be paid nor drafted highly.
Okay, I'm hearing them loud and clear. We can't put a lot of money into the running back position. We can't put high draft picks into the position. We got to get by with less. All right. Okay. Easy. Simple. No problem. Here we go. Whoa. Oh. Stings a little. All right. Okay. That was too high. Can't go that. We gotta go lower. It's gotta go lower. No problem. No problem. Big money. Big money, no whammies. Big money, no whammies. Here we go. Oh, good. It's good. Third time's the charm. That's what they say, right? Third time's the charm. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Come on, not this time. All right. All right, easy. Easy. Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier? No. No. Come on now, this is ridiculous. Just give me the running back. I don't care. Stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. I don't even know who came up with it. Probably nerds. Okay. Kenneth Walker III. Maybe the best running back in this last draft. To hell with your rules. There is an active, raging debate going on not only amongst fans, but within NFL organizations. Do running backs really matter anymore? Back in 1983, our Seattle Seahawks took Kurt Warner with the 3rd overall pick in the first round. We saw 3 running backs taken in the top 10 of that draft alone. Hell, there was even a fullback taken in the top 20. Oh, how times have changed. We've seen an offensive revolution. High volume passing attacks and spread concepts, wide receiver screens and fly sweeps, pre-snap motion, the challenging of defenses laterally as well as vertically. These adaptations, coupled with rule modifications centered around protecting the quarterback and holding more rigid standards as it concerns defensive holding and pass interference, paved the way for the offensive side of the ball to become the single most dominant aspect of the NFL. And then the analytic folks entered the picture. These nerds. Come on. Thank you. I'm sorry that math is hard for you. Just give them the information. Fine. Advanced statistical data indicates that running the ball is ineffective compared to passing it. A yard per attempt on a marginal passing offense will still double the yard per carry output on an even elite rushing attack. Other markers like success rate over average further shows a higher win percentage on those teams that favor passing it over running it. Further, the more that we learn regarding offensive line play, the more that we're beginning to understand it's the line's ability, cohesion, continuity, and scheme that determines running game success far beyond an elite running back. Analysis concludes there are far more important factors that possess greater impact on winning football games than simply having a great running back.
Okay, that's enough. Off with you.
The running back slander will only ramp up from here. If you were constructing a list of the top 100 free agents of this past offseason, maybe only one or two of them would have been running backs. And at the very way bottom of the list at that. In this past draft, there wasn't one running back taken in the first round. And the year before that, there was only one selected. And in this dark age for running backs being undervalued, our Seattle Seahawks have proceeded over the past 4 years to take a running back in the first round, second round, fourth round, seventh round. They've given Carlos Hyde a 1-year, $4 million deal and re-signed Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. Draft picks and money poured into a position the experts are pulling their hair out and screaming at us that we shouldn't. Is this a poor use of resources by our Seahawks? Looney bin, analog, roster construction in the age of AI? It could be that. We could come to find in retrospect that this was the place where they should have taken a left at Albuquerque.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
But what about the alternative? No future is certain, fixed. What if the Seahawks have such elite running backs, it tilts the offense in such a way to provide more sustained drives, points, and wins? The zigging when the rest of the league is zagging. The road less traveled that provides such a boon it shuts up the analytic stat lickers.
I heard that.
Shut up. The crutch of this argument is that the Seahawks have such special difference-making running backs on this roster that it overrides the going consensus on running back value. What that level of success they must hit to meet that is admittedly arbitrary and depends by person. I'd say if the running backs on this roster can provide an elite yard per carry average, if they can cause a high rate of missed forced tackles, if they can pull the double teams off your top 2 wide receivers, who, by the way, were 2 of the 5 most doubled wide receivers in the entire sport last year, then I'd say the squeeze is worth the juice. If you look at the basic metric of rushing yards gained over the last 3 years, it would seem to indicate the higher selected running backs do matter in regards to racking up more yards than their lower drafted peers. Of the top 20 rushers in football in each of the past 3 seasons, 75% were picked in the first or second round. If the interchangeability argument as it pertains to running backs were so true, you'd expect the disparity of where they were drafted to be much more distinct. Over the years in Seattle, we've gotten to witness many dynamic running backs, each with their own signature style. We've seen Kurt Warner cut on a dime and leave a quarter. John L. Williams was a 240-pound full back with rabbit's feet. Chris Warren was a big back with even bigger shoulder pads. He ran with them Eric Dickerson high knees, and if you let him get up to speed, he was gone. Ricky Watters' whole body was in constant motion, and he fought like hell on every run. John Alexander was the Alabama glider, patiently picking his holes before turning on the jets to daylight. Marshawn was a beast unto his own. And the Seahawks let a Brahma bull into the ring when they started handing Chris Carson the ball. We sometimes get small-minded when it comes to running backs. Is he fast? Can he break tackles? Yet there are so many more traits and attributes and the combination of the two that can create a unique running back never seen before. It's as if you go into those video games with the character builders and their endless array of options. Your build will be your own, none two the same. People become fixated on their kind of back. You see this in the Seahawks fandom with the general view of Shaun Alexander versus Marshawn Lynch. One is revered, while the other barely garners a shrug. Now, Shaun Alexander ran for way more yards as a Seattle Seahawk than Marshawn Lynch. So why is Marshawn more loved, more celebrated? Because Lynch was a human battering ram who possessed the will of 5 men, whereas Shaun Alexander was easy to tackle, a patient vision guy. In a word, finesse. It's easy to see Marshawn Lynch force a defender to make a business decision. It's harder to appreciate and recognize Shaun slowing down in the open field to give his blocker time to get out in front, or a special balance that would cause tacklers to slip off of him by subtly leaning off contact. These kind of attributes just don't pop off the screen, and so they go unnoticed, underappreciated, and undervalued. This brings me to the current Seahawks running back room, specifically Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker III. Penny is a man cut somewhat similarly from the Alexander cloth. Both men are bigger than they look, yet nimble. Both possess excellent vision and 20/10 eyesight to find the hole. Both have speed to burn, yet aren't considered as fast as they are. And both running backs have a segment of the fan base that feel they have a soft running style. I've long been a proponent of Rashad Penny. He was originally drafted in reaction to Todd Gurley killing the Seahawks with a similar running style. He came to Seattle and found Coach Carroll utterly obsessed with Chris Carson initially, so he couldn't even get on the field. Then when he did get on the field, he was used quite oddly. Time and again, the Seahawks would hammer him up the middle on inside zone runs or hammer him up the middle out of read option. Usually when you have a guy with his kind of speed and burst, you try to get them to the edges of the defense. Despite the strange use of Penny through his first few years, he was still effective to the tune of 4.9 yards per carry, which if not elite, is very close to for a running back. It's also impressive when you consider how inoften he had 10 or more rushing attempts in a game. Backs often require a certain amount of carries to get into their proper rhythm. Shaun Alexander has long cited that he would often set defenses up in the first half with his choice of holes, getting them to flow in a general direction that he would then exploit in the second half for big runs. Underutilized, Penny still produced. And in those rare occasions where he got more than just a handful of carries, he really popped. This brings me to this past season. Penny at the start of the season is still recovering from the torn ACL that he suffered at the end of the 2019 season in the form of small tissue injuries that he's just trying to gut through. But by the end of the year, by the back half of the schedule, oh baby, did he get up over that hump. Week 14 against the Texans, he absolutely ran roughshod, 137 yards on 16 carries. And outside the Rams game, he was completely dominant the rest of the way out. Which now brings me to the fun part, where I try to blow your mind. For if you take the games last year where Rashad Penny had 10 carries or more, and add those carries to the prior year's games that he had 10 carries or more, you come to a total of 163 carries. He gained 1,109 yards on those carries for a staggering 6.8 yard per carry average in games when Rashad Penny had 10 carries or more throughout the course of his career. That's not just elite. Those are all-time type numbers. And there's reason to believe that there's even, as of yet, more untapped potential. One of the most interesting stats from the 2019 season, that year where Penny was really starting to get up and running before that devastating injury, was that on outside runs, those plays that would be pitches or tosses, he was averaging 8.2 yards per carry. On outside zone runs, those plays going basically over the back of the tackle, he was averaging 6.7 yards per carry. But for whatever reason, Coach Carroll or the offensive coordinators or both seem to ignore this outside rushing stat, for they continue to hammer him up the middle. As if they do it often enough, he'll morph into Marshawn Lynch or Chris Carson. Even last year, during Penny's phenomenal end-of-the-year run, I'd still roughly estimate 90% of those carries were up the middle, behind the center, through the A-gap. Rashad Penny can run up the middle. He spoke in a recent interview about being most comfortable on inside runs. He's big enough to deal with the glancing tackles of large defensive linemen and swift enough to get through those fast closing holes. But if you take more of an initiative to get him to the edges, outside, he can lay siege to the whole damn defense, not just the middle. With the Seahawks signing Rashad Penny to a 1-year, $5.75 million deal this offseason, I'd wager that he's probably going to get 10 games with 10 carries or more this season, minimum. Health willing, he will truly be the bell cow back. And thanks to our Seahawks adding more mobile offensive linemen this offseason, I'd also put money on him getting more carries to the edge. You begin the game. Penny is absolutely gashing your defense up the middle. You squish your splits. You bring an extra safety on up into the box. Dare him to go to the edges. And you're just forcing him to his greatest strength. It's part of the impossibility of dealing with Rashad Penny. Heads or tails, he wins either way. The backup plan is Kenneth Tiberius Walker III. The kid out of Michigan State has reignited this running back debate. For though the Seahawks were nearly unanimously praised, lavished with praise by everyone for their recent great draft, there were those that had a bone to pick with one of the selections, specifically the Walker selection. And the problem does not seem to be with the player himself, but because of some weird new age tenet that states, "Thou shalt not take thine running back in the second round, for it will cause the nerds to punch pillows."
Once again, I heard that.
Go make a pie chart. Fuck you. So let's reframe this debate for a moment. Rather than getting mad because the data droolers tell us it's just not worth it, let's ask the question. Is Kenneth Walker a difference maker enough at the position to potentially warrant his second round selection? First, let's take a look at the surface stats. Walker rushed for 1,636 yards last year and an eye-popping 18 touchdowns. This wasn't on a stacked Michigan State team. No Spartan offensive linemen went in this last year's draft, nor any wide receivers. Teams could concentrate solely on him, and they still couldn't stop him. His 2021 season becomes even more remarkable when you look at the advanced statistics. Walker led the whole NCAA with 1,168 yards after contact last year, forcing 89 missed tackles. This means 71% of his yards gained occurred after contact. He wasn't just running through U-Haul truck-sized holes here, folks. And he also had 46 runs of 10 yards or more, which means he can shake you in a phone booth or burn Back to the Future blaze trails as he leaves you in his wake. Kenneth Walker also won the Walter Camp Award last year, which is given out annually to the top collegiate football player since 1967. If you look at a vast majority of prior running backs that have won the award, they've gone on to have highly productive pro careers. Names you'd recognize like Tony Dorsett and O.J. Simpson, Marcus Allen, Herschel Walker, Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, Ricky Williams, Larry Johnson, Eddie George, and Derrick Henry, just to name a few. Walker was also a brilliant tester through this pre-draft process. He's a 90th overall percentile athlete for his position. But his 4.38 40 was 98th percentile. He's not just fast, though. If you look at the 10-yard split, which is the player's first 10 yards of his 40-yard dash, Walker timed a 1.5 flat 10-yard split, which, like his 40-yard dash, is 98th percentile for his position. This means he's quick as lightning and fast as a thoroughbred. Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker were the consensus top two running backs in this last draft. It was a steep drop-off in talent once you got past these two. Now, Hall went a couple picks ahead of Seattle in the second round, which meant that if our Hawks passed on Walker there, he was most likely going to be taken within the next 10 selections, if not faster. There were 3 running backs last year in the top 20 in the NFL in rushing. 2 of those were the first 2 running backs taken in the prior draft. They say history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. There are many running backs under the sun. Few are ever really alike. Embrace their varied stylings, especially when they take the form of a dominant player. I have a sneaking suspicion that Rashad Penny is going to put quite a few smiles on Seahawks fans' faces this fall, illustrating just such a point. And when he needs a rest, the tackle-breaking speed of Kenneth Walker III will provide the defense no reprieve. They say the running game is dead, of little use. They say running backs are like cattle. 1 year in the pen, then off to the slaughter and on to another next season again. They say it's a passing league and you better get with the program. I say, our Seahawks are going to take these candy-ass, limp-wristed, cover-obsessed, over-aggressive flag football defenses and put them on skates. Bring your extra man down to help stop the run. I dare you to leave DK and Tyler in single coverage. An eighth man in the box will not help you. The cover 2 defense will no longer save you. Pick your poison, for there is no antidote. They say RBs are DOA. They were KIA'd by the CBA and the PFF. I say, let the running backs bake. Shake and bake.
It's a little bit of shake and then bake. Shake and bake.
You never know. On the back of this mighty ground game, our Seahawks might just mess around and make the playoffs. My name is Brandon Kane. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you forget, go Hawks.